This morning, this is Sunday Morning Futures. I'm Maria Bartiromo. The White House declining to release the Democratic counter memo on alleged surveillance abuses at the FBI, citing national security risks. Did Democrats play politics to force the president's hand? I'll talk with House Intel Chairman Nunes coming up about that. And how far up the ladder does the corruption at the Justice Department go? Does it reach Barack Obama? Also, a new budget is in place, including more than $1 trillion in defense spending over the next 2 years. Is that enough? Retired four-star General Jack Keane joins me live. Plus, a topsy-turvy week for stock prices on Wall Street. What's behind all this volatility? What does it mean for you as we look ahead right now on Sunday Morning Futures? And we kick it off now with the abuse of power at the top of the FBI. Dueling memos dividing Washington this weekend as the White House declines the request to release a Democratic counter memo to a GOP document alleging surveillance abuses at the FBI and the Department of Justice. The Republican lawmaker behind the initial memo is now setting his sights on the State Department as part of his ongoing investigation of corruption in our top law enforcement agencies continues. That lawmaker joins me right now, House Intel Committee Chairman Nunes. Mr. Chairman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to be with you.
So let me kick it off with that and the fact that the White House has denied the request to release Adam Schiff's memo. What can you tell us about that memo? You've seen it. What do we need to understand about this? Well,
first off, this was not a surprise. So this was after they had accused the Republicans of putting sources and methods into our memo. We actually did not. We just put in what we thought the American people needed to know. It was clear from the development of the Democratic memo from the very beginning that they packed it full of sources and methods. Now, for the viewers out there, what are sources and methods? We don't want to give up the way that our Intelligence Committee recruits sources, the methods that they may use to recruit sources. So these are things that don't need to be made public. However, the Democrats knew this. They packed their memo full of sources and methods. Now, on Friday night, we received a letter back from the White House. The White House did not deny the release of the Democrats' memo. What they did is they said, look, you need to make some redactions and some technical corrections here, and we will get it out right away. Now, from that point, we've heard nothing but crickets. The Democrats have been on TV all weekend long. Their memo is sitting at the House Intelligence Committee down at the bottom of the Capitol, waiting to be redacted. If they really wanted to get it out, they'd be down there all day yesterday, redacting it, getting it back over to the White House so that the public could know what's in it. So this is nothing but politics.
And within the Democratic memo, there was no rejection of the point of your memo, which was, bottom line, the FBI used government resources to spy on a political enemy.
Well, right. We actually want the Democratic memo out. We think it's ridiculous on the face of it. We think it's very political about how they attack myself. They attack Chairman Gowdy. They turn Carter Page into some super secret Russian spy. They talk about how Christopher Steele is a really, really good source when we know that he lied to the FBI. So we want this out. We don't know why they're not in this weekend redacting it so that we can get it back to the White House so the president can declassify it.
Right, but they did not deny the omission of information that has taken place here. Basically, FBI goes to the FISA court and presents this so-called dossier of unverified information about Donald Trump during an election, and they do not tell the FISA court that the dossier was actually paid for by Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, that's the crux of our argument. Why are we going through all this? Well, phase one of our investigation was to look at the FISA abuse. So we very simply said, look, the court didn't know that the Democrats paid for this. Now, remember, this is an investigation into the other campaign. I would think a judge would need to know that. They also omitted the fact, after they discovered that Christopher Steele went and talked to multiple media outlets, and that they had used some of those media outlets, some of the stories to corroborate the dossier, you would think somehow someone somewhere would say, hey, we better go tell the FISA court this. They didn't do it the first time, they didn't do it the second time, they didn't do it the third time. In fact, they didn't even do it the fourth time. So a full year they were spying on an American citizen who was affiliated with the Trump campaign, and the court didn't know any of that for 4 times in a row.
In terms of their surveillance, did they also capture Steve Bannon and other people within the Trump campaign?
Well, look, I mean, we know that Carter Page, we know now because it's been declassified, we know that anyone who was talking to Carter Page was likely picked up by authorities. Now, that would include, remember, Carter Page has been a suspect of Congress. We have interviewed him. I think the Senate has interviewed him. So this is scary stuff, right? I mean, this would mean that they would have congressional communications from our branch of government. They would have anybody that he was talking to in the White House. And look, let's just, you know, Carter Page is an interesting individual, okay? But he also was a guy who cooperated with the FBI back in 2013. They used him in a court case to say the Russians actually didn't even want to recruit Carter Page. But look, I don't agree with Carter Page on very much, but the guy shouldn't have his emails or phone calls listened to and eavesdropped into. Give
us the new information that you're seeking. You have asked the FISA court for what? What are you seeking now, Congressman?
Well, one of the things this past week that we sent a letter to the FISA court asking for the transcripts of the 4 appearances before the FISA court. So as the FISA court approved the warrant, we want to know what transpired. So we sent a letter to the court this week asking for those transcripts so that we can make at least we can have those in a classified setting, and if there's anything we would need to make public or need to make other members of Congress aware, we would.
People want to know where this is all leading, Congressman. Now, I want to ask you about the Graham-Grassley memo, because that memo from Lindsey Graham and Chuck Grassley, that memo confirms everything basically in your memo, but it also recommends charges. Tell us about those charges that this memo is recommending, charges against the British spy Christopher Steele.
Yeah, so it's pretty clear. The good thing about the Grassley-Graham memo, not only is it was actually a letter, it was a criminal referral to justice. It was written before our memo was put together. So essentially what it does is it corroborates what we had said, and it goes further than that, and it really points out how Christopher Steele lied to the FBI. So it is a clear-cut case. Christopher Steele lied to the FBI, and I can't for the life of me know, when you have the House who said that, hey, this guy lied to the FBI, and you have the Senate who said this guy lied to the FBI, Christopher Steele, what is the Justice Department doing? Where is the prosecution of Christopher Steele? This is a slam-dunk case. They have all the documents, and this is what makes people really wonder about having confidence that the DOJ and FBI are playing this straight up.
That's right.
If they're playing it straight up, they would have immediately went after, once they were notified by Congress, hey, Christopher Steele lied to you, they would bust him for lying to the FBI. So they also, still the big felony in all of this that nobody talks about from the very beginning was the leak of highly classified information when they leaked the phone call of the Russian ambassador talking to General Mike Flynn right before the inauguration. That was a felony. Nothing's ever been done about it. And people are sitting, like myself, are sitting there, hey, you want to go after people who were colluding with the Russians? Great. But let's first start with the felonies that we actually know that took place. And for some reason, nobody thinks that that's important to do. Nothing's been done, and it's absolutely outrageous.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, there are more felonies that you can point to. I mean, the idea that Cheryl Mills got immunity after lying to the FBI and a number of other Clinton cronies getting immunity after actually lying to the FBI. The idea that two FBI agents, Peter Strzok and his lover, the lawyer Lisa Page, are saying, okay, he's winning, we need an insurance policy. What was the insurance policy? Creating all this nonsense and noise around a Russia probe and getting a special counsel involved. So the bottom line is, where are the charges? Who will we see get prosecuted as a result of this massive abuse of power, Congressman?
So what we can do, what can we do in our branch of government, in the legislative branch of government? We provide oversight, right? So we look at these agencies, we can investigate them, and at the end of the day, we can make criminal referrals, but criminal referrals only. We don't have people that can go out and arrest people and bring them down to the Capitol and hold them at the, in the bowels of the Capitol. All we can do is make criminal referrals. So if DOJ and FBI are not going to prosecute what seem to be very clear cases like with Christopher Steele lying to them, or if they're not going to investigate clear felonies like the leak of very highly sensitive classified information in terms of phone calls that were intercepted, if they're not going to go after those, right, at some point the buck's going to have to stop with someone, and we will continue our investigation. But I think ultimately it will be the American people who will put the pressure not only on Congress but the other branches of government to make sure that justice is served.
Yeah, so where does the buck stop? We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to ask you a little more about this, Congressman, because you're at a World Ag Expo right now, and this is turning into a street fight between you and the left, who's attacking not only you but the entire farming community. We're going to talk about where you are this morning, as well as how far up the chain of command goes in terms of the corruption at the FBI. Does it reach Barack Obama? We'll talk about that after this short break. Stay with us, Congressman Devin Nunes. Follow me on Twitter at Maria Bartiromo, at Sunday Futures. Let us know what you want to hear from Congressman Devin Nunes. He will be back after this. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are back now with the chairman of the House Intel Committee, Devin Nunes. And Congressman, we're talking about this FBI investigation, and I want to get to phase 2 of your investigation and what you're looking at the State Department. Oh, well, let's explain where you are this morning. You are coming to us from the World Ag Expo, the agriculture, farmers, the annual expo there. And, this investigation in general has turned into something of a street fight between you and the Democrats, in particular Adam Schiff, who's attacking you all the time. Nancy Pelosi coming out last week saying, oh, Devin Nunes is not fit to run because you are seeking the truth. It's also impacting the entire industry, isn't it? Farmers.
Yeah, I mean, this is a part of the world. I always call this area the canary in the coal mine. I always warn all my conservative friends and Republican allies across the country that we've been dealing with these people for a really long time. So we're in the agricultural mecca of the world. Over 300 different crops grow here. We will have the largest international ag equipment show in the world. We'll start here tomorrow. But we have been attacked by Hollywood and San Francisco for years. In fact, so much so that a lot of the land in this area, even though it's the most fertile and productive farmland in the world, we struggle every year because constantly they take our water and they let it flow out to the ocean. So this is not something that is unusual. People ask me, well, how can you're getting attacked? Well, look, we're used to getting attacked here in California. There's been a war on people who actually build things, grow things, work with their hands. They think that, if you're in the D.C. Beltway or in New York City, no offense to where you are now, but San Francisco and Los Angeles, that this is somehow the people who make this country work. And the fact is they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue where their food comes from. And so when they attack me, it means that I know exactly what's up. It means that we have the facts. Yeah. They do not, and they don't want the American people to know that the DOJ and FBI use political dirt from one campaign paid for by the Democrats to go and spy on the Trump campaign.
And that's what we're learning more and more. Thank you for what you've done in terms of water for the Central Valley in your district, because I know that they're trying to get all of this economic activity and just put a stop to it by creating the Central Valley and putting it back to its natural desert-like fashion, killing all that farming. So that's a whole nother story. We're going to do a lot on that on Mornings with Maria on the Fox Business Network coming up in the next couple of weeks. But let me ask you about your phase 2 of this investigation. You are investigating now the State Department. What went on?
So what we originally said is that we had an investigation into the State Department and how information was coming into the State Department and then getting to other agencies. Since we announced that just a little over a week ago, we've had numerous people that were at the State Department at the time who have now come out and are spilling their guts. In fact, so much so one of them actually wrote an op-ed as to why I was investigating him. It was published in the Washington Post, which I thought was a little bizarre because we hadn't even reached out to him yet. The only people that I know had reached out to him or had named that individual was Chuck Grassley, Senator Grassley, who was also conducting an investigation. So names are beginning to spill out. Names that I think would ring a bell, like Cody Shear and Sidney Blumenthal, who are known longtime Hillary Clinton advocates. This was actually before my time in Washington when they were up to a lot of shenanigans, but most of the people who have been around a long time know these characters. They know they're bad characters in terms of the types of things that they're willing to use against political adversaries. Somehow, what it appears like, if you believe the Washington Post editorial or op-ed, is that these cast of characters were putting information similar to the original Steele dossier, what appears to be in a different Steele dossier, if you believe them, which was attacking Trump, and feeding that into the FBI. And that's not all we're looking at. I'm glad that they came out and puked their guts out in the Washington Post. I'd like more people to do that. But we are actually looking at additional challenges of information that went into the State Department and went to the FBI to be used against the Republicans.
Congressman, how far up the chain does this go? Was Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton basically pulling the strings?
Well, we know that the Attorney General was briefed in the spring of 2016, so we know she was made aware. We know now by the people from the State Department who have said that John Kerry, Secretary Kerry, was briefed on the dossier. We know most of the news media was briefed on the dossier. So all of this was out there. Everybody, I think, but the Trump campaign and Republicans and the American people, everybody else outside of those three groups knew about the dossier and were actively trying to open investigations, start investigations to use this dirt to go after the other campaign. Incredible.
So we know that Hillary Clinton goes to run for president, and she's got the full weight and strength and power of the U.S. government behind her, where FBI and other agencies are completely politicized to make sure she wins, and she still lost. This is just an extraordinary story.
And not only that, Maria, but I'd also add that the collusion is right in front of our eyes. Right? People, just because you hire a lawyer who hires a firm, who hires a former British spy to make contacts with Russians, that means that you were colluding with the Russians.
Right. That's called collusion.
Okay?
Collusion and corruption
that's called
at the
collusion,
top of the FBI.
And nobody's looking at that.
Congressman, we are. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
My pleasure.